The night she was born, the sky forgot to cry. The moon hung low over the village of Masinga, its pale light touching the earth that had cracked open like old clay pots left in the sun. The air carried no scent of rain, only dust. And inside a small mud hut at the far edge of the village, a young woman lay in labor, gripping a thin, fraying blanket as the wind howled through the gaps in the walls. In the corner, an old kerosene lamp flickered, its flame fighting against the draft. Her mother, sweat and tears mixing on her face, whispered a name before the child even came into the world. Ebony. It meant we asked and we received in the old tongue. But her father didn't receive her with joy. He stood in the doorway for a moment, watching the tiny child gasp her first breath. Then, without a word, he turned, stepped into the night, and disappeared into the dust. That was the first time Ebony's heart would break. It would not be the last. Masinga was a village where time moved with the sun. The day began with the rooster's cry and ended when the sun slid into the horizon, bleeding orange and red over the acacia trees. There were no clocks here, no electricity, no hum of machines, only the rustle of the wind in the grass, the bleating of goats, the steady rhythm of survival. For as long as she could remember, Ebony's feet were always dusty. She carried water in yellow jerrycans almost half her size. She learned early that food was never promised. Some nights there was porridge, other nights only water and sleep. Her mother was her anchor, her laugh like cool water on a hot day. She worked the stubborn earth with bare hands, coaxing maize and beans from the soil, even when the sky gave nothing. One morning, when the sun was only a pale smear in the east, Ebony found her mother sitting in the field, her hands limp in her lap. Her skin burned with fever, her lips were dry and cracked. The village healer pressed a hand to her forehead, then sighed. She needs medicine from the town, he said, but the town was 40 kilometers away, and they had no money. For 2 days, Ebony sat by her mother's side, wiping sweat from her brow, whispering prayers she barely understood. On the third morning, the prayers ended. The stillness in her mother's body was heavier than any drought. They buried her beneath the great baobab tree, whose deep roots had kept it alive when all else around it died. The same night, Ebony lit the kerosene lamp in their hut, the only light they had, and swore she would keep it burning until her life had meaning. After her mother's death, her uncle took her in. He was not cruel, but kindness had been beaten out of him by debt and disappointment. He made her fetch water from the far-off well each day, carry bundles of firewood heavier than her, and tend to the goats before she could rest. School was a luxury for other children. Ebony passed the small classroom every morning, hearing the sound of chalk scratching against the blackboard, the voices of children reciting lessons. She would pause for just a second, listening, then keep walking. At night, she sat by the lamp with a torn page from an old school book she had found in the trash. She traced the strange shapes of letters with her finger, whispering them like they were magic spells. One dry season afternoon, a stranger came to the village, a tall woman with dark skin, tired eyes, and a clipboard. She was part of an aid group, bringing sacks of maize and water drums. When her eyes fell on Ebony, who stood staring at the books poking out her bag, she stopped. "Do you want to learn?" the woman asked softly. Ebony nodded, too afraid to speak. That night, the woman came to her uncle's home with a book and a stick. She drew letters in the dust on the floor, teaching Ebony to match them with sounds. Ebony's lips stumbled over the words, but her eyes shone like the flame of the lamp. The woman returned each week. Ebony's reading grew faster. She began to dream of things beyond the acacia trees, beyond the cracked earth. But dreams in Masinga were fragile things. One night, the lamp sputtered and went out. The kerosene was gone. There was no money for more. And in the darkness, her uncle told her news that made her blood run cold. "You will marry next month," he said. "The man has land. He'll take care of you." The man was 3 times her age. That night, Ebony lay awake, her mind racing. She thought of her mother's words. A light is useless if it hides in fear. Before dawn, she packed a small bag. Inside, she placed the torn notebook page, a small cloth from her mother, and the determination she had carried since birth. She walked barefoot through the night, the thorn bushes scratching her legs, the silence broken only by her breathing. By sunrise, she reached the road that led to the town. There, she found the aid workers' camp. The woman hid her for weeks, then found her a scholarship at a boarding school far from Masinga. At the school, Ebony devoured knowledge like a starving child devours food. She read under streetlights when the school's power failed. She wrote essays on scraps of paper. She studied by the dim glow of borrowed lamps. Her grades rose. Her voice grew stronger. She became the top student in her district. Years later, Ebony returned to Masinga, not as the barefoot girl carrying water, but as a woman with a degree in environmental engineering. She brought water tanks that filled with every drop of rain. She built solar panels that lit homes at night. She brought seeds that could grow even when the earth was dry. On her first night back, she lit the old kerosene lamp again, just once. The entire village gathered. The children's eyes reflected the flame, and Ebony said, "This is the last time we will need this lamp. From now on, our light will never die."